Hello everyone, welcome to Mindspeak on Herald Global. I am Saimik Sen. Joining us today, a composer known for his cutting-edge music and unique approach to sound. He has composed plus produced songs and background scores for acclaimed Hindi films like Khakee, Delhi Belly, Talaash, Raman Raghav 2, Raees and many more. Joining us today, Mr. Sampath. Thank you so much for taking out this time for us. Welcome to Herald Global.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let me begin by asking you, why did you choose to become a composer? Can you take us through your journey?
Yes, sure. Actually, it was a calling. It was something that came to me when I was about 9 years old. That I like the way I can understand the way songs are built, the way music is constructed. That has always been my primary passion. Right from my childhood, the most exciting part of my journey with music was not just listening to the music, but also kind of living with the those days the cassettes or the CDs or the DVDs, whatever it is. I always wanted to see who's done what is the making process. I always wanted to kind of step behind the curtain and understand the workings behind the magic. So that's something that always intrigued me. Secondly, I don't know, I've always had this thing where it's genres are almost irrelevant to me. I like almost every style of music and I appreciate it for what it is.
True.
I've always been like that. So I know when you're young, you have a bunch of friends who are deep into heavy metal and they don't listen to anything else and they look down on everything else. And I didn't get that ever. I loved heavy metal too, but I didn't get that ever. I loved hip hop. I loved pop, disco, everything. So
everything.
World music, Carnatic, Hindustani classical. I don't have any sort of compartmentalization of music that I like and don't like. I pretty much like all genres, and I think there are masters in every genre.
True. Okay, so you have frequently chosen to compose for out-of-the-box movies like Delhi Belly, Raman Raghav. What attracts you to such kind of projects?
Actually, I think those projects, for some weird reason, land up on my lap simply because I attract certain kinds of projects. I don't seem to attract the Ye Jawani Hai Diwanis and the highways of the world. I seem to attract only the really oddball, interesting stories. I mean, I'm calling them interesting because I feel that both films gave me an opportunity to do music that I just wouldn't conventionally get to do otherwise. When I started my career, the first song that really launched got me attention and got me love from the audience, though they might not have known at that time that I'd made the song, was Tanha Dil. And Tanha Dil is such a conventionally kind of Musafir Hu Yaro type of song, like a journey song, and that actually it'll explain a lot to you about what kind of person I am, that I can do Tanha Dil and then I can do kind of Raman Raghav as well. It is for me storytelling. All of it comes under the giant umbrella of storytelling, and as musicians also, we're part of that storytelling process and that journey. So the fact that I'm actually very flattered that people think that I'm capable of scoring their film. Most of the times, whenever I hear a new script and I like it, there's a lot of butterflies in my stomach. And that excitement, I think, is the reason why I enjoy doing this. I think the day that the butterflies stop, I probably should just stop making music.
True. Okay, so you have composed innumerable number of jingles for brands like Airtel, Pepsi, Thumbs Up, and many more. What is it that connects these brands to consumers through music, according to you?
Yeah, look, the thing with music is that it conveys so much. I don't think there's any other medium of popular expression that gives you as much bang for buck as music. Like, for example, the fact that whether it's the Docomo jingle that I did or Har Ek Friend Zaruri Hota Hai, it didn't have any celebrities in it. It didn't have any stars. The music was the star. And it delivers every single time, because if you're telling something that connects to people at a visceral level and it connects to their lives, music is always the soundtrack of your life. So if there's a thought like chai ke liye jaise toast hota hai, waise har ek friend zaruri hota hai, that's just the genius of Amitabh Bhattacharya. But that is great communication, that is great songwriting. So I've always felt that music actually is a very underutilized commodity. Even in fact, we used to use it a lot more effectively earlier, but now in advertising, I think the use of music is not as strong as it used to be. Because when we were growing up, there were incredible jingles like whatever Nirma and
Of course.
yeah. I mean, all of them, just the phenomenal composers of your Ashok Patki and people like that, Vanraj Bhatia, who done so many jingles, Louis Banks. So we grew up listening to jingles as well, and knowing that jingles is a fantastic medium to be able to earn a living. I personally felt that, especially in the 90s, when I started working, the film industry was really quite different from it is what it is today. You used to get paid in cash, and I didn't like that. I wanted to be in a much more organized sector. I wanted to be able to deal with people who pay me by check, and I wanted a space where I'm um, kind of newer sounds, newer ideas are still accepted, because in those days film music was mostly Pardesi Jana Nahi and tabla dholak. So we were coming off a rock and roll background, and world music background, and I like that stuff, but only that much. I don't want to do that 24/7. And advertising allowed me to kind of satisfy that schizophrenia of mine musically.
Sure. Okay, so can you share your experience collaborating with the Australian rock band Inixis?
Yeah, sure. So that happened thanks to Sridhar Subramaniam at Sony Music. And Sridhar and I, because I had done Colorblind with Sony as a label, and Sony had distributed Colorblind, Sridhar thought well of me as a music producer, and thought that maybe I can be somebody to contribute something meaningful to that collaboration with INXS. So when INXS reached out to Sony India saying that they want to do a track, they want to do a version of Afterglow, I immediately jumped on it, and I was really excited, and I thank Sridhar to this day, because that song is such an Indian song. It's got an Indian soul to it at its heart. It's got such a desi lachak to it. And collaborating with them was such a pleasure, because I got the stems, I got these beautifully produced tracks, and I must tell you, I wish someday I can actually share those original stems, because it's actually 6 musicians in a room just playing.
Oh wow!
It's magical. It really is magical. There's nothing like it, and the power of musicians in a room, and just I hope those days come back. When we especially now that AI is going to start making music. I really hope that that we value just the beauty of what happens when real musicians with skills and talent and craft apply themselves. So that's how I felt about that collaboration, and it was beautiful meeting them after that, because they said that after when they got the new singer, and JD Fortune had become the new singer of INXS, they said we didn't agree on most things. We couldn't agree on almost anything. We couldn't agree on, but the one thing that every single member of the band agreed on was that this version of Afterglow was really, really spectacular, and that was a huge compliment. It made my year. It was so beautiful to hear.
Okay, so how challenging is it to compose for typical commercial Hindi movies like Raees and Khakee, like in terms of the pressure, in terms of the expectations?
Well, the thing is, it's music. So you're making music. You're always making music. And which of us have not grown up on a good Bollywood movie, a good action masala picture? We've all grown up on that. I love the movies of the 70s. I love the movies of the, I love the Bachchan starers. I love the Shah Rukh starers. I love the, Rangila, such a path-breaking film in our lives. It's all stuff that you love. So the music is not the difficult part. The really difficult part is convincing people about doing something new, because most of the times what happens is when the monies are big in a project, everybody wants to play it safe, and everybody wants to do something that they've seen before, or heard before, or felt before. And I think the pressure is not just on me, but the pressure is on the creative team, on the directors, it's on every one of us. So as a team, we have to give each other strength, and we have to give each other support to be able to kind of weather the storm and try and do something completely new, or something really unique. And I think I succeeded more in that on Khakee than I did on Raees. But that was enjoyable in itself. Kind of doing a version of Leila in Raees was also enjoyable in its own way, because it's such an iconic song.
True.
And redoing that was fun too. Also because I got to work with Tawfiq Qureshi, who's an old friend and a fantastic musician, and we got to do all the mouth percussions and all the fun stuff, lots and lots of live recordings. So that was the other pleasure of kind of working on big films, is that you really get to stretch your musical production chops. You can really do you can execute big ideas even on the background score and things like that. It's great fun. And that's one of the things that's unique about me. I like to do the songs and the background score of all the films that I do. Okay. I love doing background scores as well, because my heroes did. Ilayaraja, SD Burman, RD Burman, they all did scores, So I love that. I love contributing to the entire soundscape of a film. And I think I was probably most successful in kind of creating that soundscape probably in Talaash. I think the songs and the score are kind of like, really tied together. And I really enjoyed that process. I enjoyed that in Raees as well. That was great. Khakee was unique. Khakee was completely unique because I was a newcomer. And while I had a pretty strong resume in advertising, I didn't have that. I didn't have any sort of connections in Bollywood. So it was an interesting process because it felt like every time I composed a song, I felt like I was submitting it to the Lok Sabha, and it would get approved by like some some 75, 80 people would be approving it, and then if somebody liked it, somebody hated it. Reactions was so wild and hard to calibrate and hard to understand and hard to be able to filter. But I think that soundtrack has stood the test of time as well, so I'm really proud of it. Khaki is a pretty good soundtrack.
Of course. Okay, so you have also judged few musical reality shows. So what has been your experience like?
Sure. The best part of my being a judge on reality TV, especially on that Rock On with MTV that I had done, the most enjoyable part of it is the fact that I still am working with most of those musicians that I met on that show. Okay. So whether it's all of them are part of my band, part of my productions, part of so that's a beautiful thing that we still work together. I mean, all those kids that I found, they're not kids anymore. They're the super fantastic veteran musicians now. But I don't like reality TV shows. I find them very uncomfortable. I find the idea of manipulating conversations and emotions, it's just not for me. It doesn't suit me. I'd much rather have a conversation like this, and I'd much rather be able to be candid and tell people what the authentic truth is, rather than fabricate sob stories and allow other people to fabricate more sob stories. Because at the end of the day, Rabindranath Tagore was writing poetry in Shantiniketan. He had I think, if I'm not mistaken, he had a room where he wrote in the morning and a room where he wrote in the evening, and that's pretty luxurious. Premchand wrote in penury and wrote in very tough circumstances. Can you tell me that Premchand's poetry is or literature is better than Tagore just because he was poorer than Tagore? I don't think that holds. I sympathize with the underdog and I empathize with them. I'm always there for the underdog, but I can take 3 underdog stories in a day. I can't take 3,000 of them. It's inauthentic. It's you're being a liar, you're being a hypocrite, and you're selling something that is not true. It's not for me.
Okay. So how has plagiarism affected the music industry?
Plagiarism has always been a part of the Bollywood industry. We've had, Shankar Jaikishan from those days onwards. We've been lifting melodies and ideas from the West and from the world, from East Europe and a lot of places. I'm not a fan. My heroes, my greatest heroes, didn't do it. I mean, of course, you take from folk and you take from you take ideas, but you make them your own. That's the best. Sure. That's the best way to put it. You don't pass off somebody else's work as your own. So it's not my cup of tea, but yeah, I'm not sitting here to pass judgment on others. Everybody's got to do what they got to do. I won't be doing it. So yeah, that's that. The good part is that my heroes succeeded in not doing it. SD Burman didn't do it. Ilayaraja didn't do it. AR's not done it. So I think we're doing just fine.
That's a very nice way of putting things across. Okay, so like you have spent so much of time in the industry, and right now what we hear is mostly remakes. Okay, very less original songs. Why it is like this?
No, I think there's a lot of great original songs out there. It's just that no one's promoting them. No one's pushing them up to the to the top of the search engines and the streaming playlists. But I think the future is very, very bright. I think that we're in a transition phase right now. The old systems. I'm not going to play the blame game, but I can say that the old systems are slowly beginning to crumble, and a new system is beginning to replace it. And that system is going to take some time. But I think the discovery engines of new music are going to change, and it's going to get better and better. And I think the next generation has phenomenal talent. There's so much amazing talent out there. There's so many great songwriters, so many great singers. I think it's the age also of collaboration, and I think a lot of people are going to start doing that more and more. Genres are opening up, ideas are, everybody's doing their own thing. There's a Pratik Kuhad, and there's a Divine, and there's a there's a Nuclear, and there's such variety. There's so much stuff happening. There's Taikudam Bridge, and I mean, there's so many artists that I love, and I can't even take all the names off the top of my head. But it's an exciting time, and I think what's going to happen is that slowly that new music is going to start getting discovered, and it's just a matter of time before you realize that that remix thing is just one of the many streams of music that is available on Spotify or on all the streaming platforms. It's just a lot of marketing clout is not going to make your song last the test of time. It's never happened.
So you mentioned about the old system. So you have spent like close to 2 decades in the industry, if I'm not wrong. So how has the music industry evolved? 3 decades, okay. So how has the music industry evolved according to you?
The music industry has evolved in the sense of, I think the strongest aspect of the music industry now is that the music production has gotten much better. Our music sounds a lot better. There's a lot of diversity in the sounds of the productions. I think one of the things that's happened that's problematic for me is that we've especially in the middle, I think somewhere we lost our emphasis on words, on lyrics, and the beauty of lyrics. I mean, one of my favorite parts of this process is working with phenomenal lyricists so Anand and I collaborated on Ori Chiraiya, and Amitabh Bhattacharya and I have collaborated on so many songs, including Delhi Belly and things like that.
Sure.
Javed Saab and I, that's the on Talaash and Raees. That's been one of the most enjoyable parts of my job, has been working with phenomenal lyricists and being able to bring out the beauty of the words. So much of composition is the ability to be able to express what the words are saying. And sometimes you give a melody to a lyricist and you think, okay, they're going to go down the standard route, and they come up with something that completely surprises you. Like Amitabh did with Bedardi Raja. It's a phenomenal lyric.
Of course.
And that's the joy of creation and collaboration. And I think slowly, I think that emphasis is coming back on lyrics. I think the next generation feels deeply about words and connects deeply to words. So I hope that we get that balance back again, where words mean as much as the music.
Okay. So how has Carnatic music influenced your composing style?
Well, Carnatic music is the foundation of considering I'm half Tamil, half Kannada. I'm South Indian. So I grew up with Carnatic music all around me, and I trained for 7 years vocally. So Carnatic music is the foundation of my musical education. I've felt more connected to the Hindi film industry because I grew up in Bombay, and my mother is such a huge Bollywood fan and a Hindi film music fan. That's a better term. And so my path was obviously more towards Bollywood, but Carnatic music plays a huge role in my life. I've grown up with the masters. In fact, my grandfather is one of the founding members of Shanmukananda Hall. So some of the greatest Carnatic musicians have lived in the house that that I grew up in, and they have blessed that house. So I feel, I mean, it's a great privilege to be able to connect to that legacy. And yeah, it's very dear to me. I listen to Carnatic music almost every day.
Okay. So lastly, what would you like to tell your fans and aspiring artists, especially aspiring artists who wants to enter the industry? What are your suggestions?
Well, my suggestion is, first of all, be yourself. Always be yourself. Find what makes you unique. Don't try and become another person's, become a bad copy of somebody else, simply because just by saying copy, you're not doing yourself any favors. Imitation is good for learning, and it's very important for learning. We all do it when we're starting out, so that's absolutely fine. But that is the beginning of the journey. Find yourself, find your own sound, find your own voice, and stick with it. Perseverance in this industry is much more important than talent. talent is a given. I mean, I don't think you can sing unless you have some sort of talent.
True.
But beyond that, I think perseverance and having a very thick skin, using your, what people think sometimes are your disadvantages to your advantage, can sometimes be a huge plus. um, if you're not like phenomenally trained, make simplicity your USP. Like someone like Lucky Ali has. If you have a nasal tone, make it just the most beautiful sonorous nasal tone there can be, like Mohit Chauhan. Or if you have all the dexterity in the world, uh, and you're classically trained and you've got all that stuff, learn to be able to use that to the aid of storytelling, like Shreya Ghoshal does or Sonu does. So it's all, or become a storyteller like Sukhwinder. So there's so many examples out there of people who are fantastic artists in their own right, but they have something unique about them. Understand that spiritually, and don't be a clone. That's the most important advice I would give.
True. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Sampath. It was lovely talking to you. It was very enlightening. Okay, listening to you. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure, sir. Thank you for having me.